Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So, I'm seeing a graph floating around my social media feeds. Maybe you've seen it by now. If not, I'm sure before the end of the week you'll see one of these conservative thought leaders, I use that term loosely, sharing a graph with a title that says, "There is more diversity of thought on the political right than on the political left." Now, the thing about this graph is, this is probably all you're going to see of it. The conservatives that you follow are the ones that are going to show up in your newsfeed because Twitter is a cesspit when you stay on the For You page, is just going to be this screenshot with a caption that says something like, "How does this happen?" Or, "Of course, this is so obvious that conservatives are more diverse in what they believe than liberals. Liberals stay in an echo chamber and they stamp out any opinions that don't fit with their correct mold." They'll say stuff about how you've been brainwashed by the media or by the colleges, all this postmodern neo-Marxism talk, and I know that's a Jordan Peterson phrase from a bygone era, but the same sort of people say the same sort of things. That's why the blue portion is so closely knit and the red portion is such a wide web. Now, if you're an astute person, you might be looking at this and say, well, I would like to read this data. And these conservatives will do everything they can to not link you the exact article, the exact study that was done, or the questions that were asked to create this graph. All they care about is graph crimes. They don't care about the actual data itself. So, I welcome you to look at the questions that were asked in this. Because I gotta tell you right now, there's some real winners. These surveys ask your positive or negative opinions on questions like abortion should be legal, the government should take steps to make incomes more equal, all unauthorized immigrants should be sent back to their home country, the federal budget for welfare programs should be increased, lesbian, gay, and trans couples should be allowed to legally marry, the government should regulate business to protect the environment. The federal government should make it more difficult to buy a gun. The federal government should make concerted efforts to improve social and economic conditions for African Americans. And this is where your diversity of thought comes into play, because for the majority of liberal people, for the majority of left-leaning progressive people, they're going to say abortion should be legal. They're going to say welfare programs should be increased. The idea of student lunch debt is insane. No kid should have to pay for lunch while they're in school. SNAP benefits should be larger for everybody. The stuff about gay marriage, of course, most left-leaning and liberal people will say that marriage equality should be equal for everyone. Item 7 is a bit of a special one, because I know a fair amount of left-leaning people who are more pro-gun rights than most conservatives. Of course, these left-leaning people take Marxist stance on it, that guns rights are workers' rights, and how else could you seize the means of production from people who don't want to give it to you? And in fact, you can see in this graph that conservatives are throwing around, there is some branch off in the left-leaning side. You do have some stuff that goes away from that core center group. It is far more broad on the right-hand side. But even looking at that question 7, I know there are conservatives who want to keep certain people from owning guns. I actually don't think there's a single point on this 8-item questionnaire that every conservative would agree on. Even item 3, where it refers to all unauthorized immigrants, the current conservative calling card is regarding third world immigration. So I'm sure there are certain unauthorized immigrants who they would be allowed to stay in if they had a certain complexion about them. Now, if you would like to read this study in its entirety, the link is in my description. I would never keep you from learning from a source material. I don't want to propagandize you into believing something that I believe just because it sounds good to you. I want you to learn the truth, and then you work from there. However, I will say the title of this survey is correct. Conservatives do have more diversity of thought than liberals, because liberals believe in rights for everyone, that every person is equal, that we all deserve the same freedoms, liberties, and choices in life, while conservatives will pick and choose. It's what flavor of whiteness are you to determine what sorts of rights you have. The line that you were born inside gives you more rights than someone else. Hell, I'll make the joke all the time that conservatives don't want to conserve anything, let alone the environment, but you still have members of Trump's own cabinet, namely Doug Burgum, who seem to be very serious about environmental protection. So even on those levels, conservatives don't agree on everything because some of them still have a bit of soul about them, and they don't look at the world as something that can be bled strictly for profit. But conservatives will keep posting this graph crime. They won't tell people to read further into it because it makes them feel good. to be told that they're diverse thinkers, even though the diversity of their thought is who's more of a human than the rest of us. But I guess until the next time conservatives share incomplete data sets to try and make themselves feel better about being closed minded, y'all try to have a good day.